Holy smokes. All I can say is for me, yesterday was probably the most exciting day of 2020. Challenge Daytona happened and the coverage did not disappoint. What happens when you throw some Olympic triathletes, Ironman, and middle distance triathletes all together in one venue to see who is really the best in the world? You get the Daytona Challenge, a 2-kilometer swim, 80-kilometer bike, and 18-kilometer run, which is a bit shorter than the middle 70.3 distance and way more spectator friendly. I can attest to that because my whole family was watching, and even my husband asked me to turn up the volume so he could hear the commentators. Never could I have imagined I could get my family to genuinely be interested in watching a triathlon, especially one I'm not participating in. But how could someone not be amazed? The level of beastliness emitting from those athletes was just insane. Paula Findlay and Gustav Iden didn't even look like they were suffering in any capacity when they both crossed the finish line to secure their $100,000 payout for the men and women's fields. I mean, despite the really sad 2-minute drafting penalty Anne Haug had to serve, Paula still managed to get the win on her by almost 3 minutes, and Gustav had a minute lead on the men as well. It was sad to see Alistair Brownlee take himself out. He was in the running for the $100,000, but there are no guarantees in this sport, and he proved that as he was a favorite to many to win the whole thing. But a flat course is nothing to laugh at. 80 kilometers is basically 2 hours going full gas in aero position. It was nice to see Gustav win and American Matt Hansen take second, followed by Great Britain's George Goodwin. But personally, I was rooting for Lionel Sanders to make top 3, and he put on an amazing show of playing catch up. He was 49th out of the water and ended up finishing 4th overall. But it could have been anyone's race, honestly. I'm not exactly sure how many started the race, but only 46 men finished, and just in the top 10, there was only about 2 minutes difference separating them all. 2 minutes is a lot in the world of endurance, but it's also so close when quite a few people had penalties that cost them those 2 minutes, so it was quite the nail biter. Back to the women's race, there was at least one heartbreaking penalty that was committed by American Jackie Herring. She worked her way up into the top 10 before she had to serve her 5-minute penalty. With a race that can come down to a sprint finish among competitors, that is pretty much a death sentence. And what's worse is not knowing what you got the penalty for. She ended up finishing in 19th place, and those 5 minutes would have put her in the top 10. Most of the penalties today came from breaking the draft rule. There was a 20-meter draft rule, which meant you had to keep a 20-meter gap between you and the person in front of you. During one section of the track, you were given the opportunity to pass. So basically, that is only 20 chances to pass people in front of you on the bike on that loop, and it wasn't much time. It averaged out to be about 45 seconds that you had to pass the people in front of you before you had to settle back into the 20-meter gap. And I guess those 45 seconds were into the wind as well, which made it even more fun. Laura Phillip put on a good show as well and surprised herself with a 3rd place finish for the women. It's funny to think that as a competitor, just like in most races, you really have no idea where you stand until after you cross that finish line. And an honorable mention should go out to Holly Lawrence from coming back from an injury that threatened her with an early retirement, and she finished strong in 4th place. So is this the future of triathlon? I sure hope so. I mean, I will still compete in Ironman races, but as a spectator, there's nothing that compares. The Professional Triathlon Organization has gone above and beyond to really show they care about the athletes this year. 2020 was hard, and seeing as how most professional triathletes make on average $20,000 per year as an athlete, taking away the races, their major source of income, must have been quite the blow. However, the PTO stepped up and gave a payout to the top professional athletes depending on their ranking from last year, and the Daytona Challenge was an epic event with over $1 million prize pool. As you can see here, it was a pretty good payday for all the athletes who showed up to finish this race. I'm not one to complain about Ironman offering deferrals instead of refunds, but I predict the PTO is going to make it hard in the future for Ironman to continue on like just a business, and they will have to be more about the athlete and their desires to be able to compete with an organization which is starting off really strong, showing their support for the athletes and overall positive growth for the sport. The coverage alone was streamed live on YouTube and Twitch, and it was incredible. The quality was spectacular. The commentators did a fantastic job, and I was never really left questioning too much about what was going on. The only complaint I have is they ended it before the men's race was over. A suggestion I could offer is for them to be more transparent about injuries athletes are dealing with and/or cramping, and most definitely penalties, so we know why some of our favorite athletes go from killing it to just vanishing into thin air. I still think there will be our Ironman athletes, there will be our Olympian-bound athletes, and there will be those in the middle. But I think the PTO found a way to get all these different types of triathletes together so we can really see for ourselves who are the best overall triathletes in the world. I think the PTO is just one more option for triathletes to decide which route they would like to take on their endurance journeys, and with the Speedway venue approach, it will bring the sport to the masses. People will start knowing the names of triathletes, the best athletes in the world, because they will be able to watch them from the comfort of their own living rooms for the first time ever. I'm really excited to see the direction the PTO pushes this sport into, and I couldn't have possibly been more inspired by what I saw yesterday. I'm really curious to know what your thoughts are on these different types of races. Do you think the PTO is good for the sport? Do you think there will be changes made in the ITU and Ironman races after seeing what was possible in Daytona? I'm really curious what you are thinking, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. I can't be the only one who is feeling super pumped and excited for another race like this, even if I'm not going to be participating in it.
Feels so good, so good.